Hey my fellow gamers. Well, as you all probably know, Sega is not doing very well. Well, to clarify, Sega's gaming division is not doing very well, but Sega Sammy is doing very well, but that's a longer story for another time. Okay, apparently Sega's gaming division is only looking at about a $35 million profit gross this year, which is not very good at all. As a result of this, Sega is restructuring and laying off some of their staff, and is moving their headquarters in California to a new location. Now, the question on your minds is, why is Sega doing so badly? Well, here's the real truth. Sega is not making freaking games. Or to be more direct, Sega is not making enough good games, and they're focusing too heavily on freaking Sonic. Sonic Boom has proven to be a financial and a reputational gutter bomb. What a surprise. The game has sold a total of 490,000 units on both the Wii U and 3DS. And while maybe the game might eventually turn a small profit, but as for the game's reputation, it is pretty much hated by every Sonic fan for its unfinished and rushed development. And the game is actually being debated if it's worse than Sonic 06. I don't know what happened to Sonic Boom. Everyone, myself included, was really hyped for this game, and while I haven't tried the Wii U version, I know the game is an unfinished mess, though I'm still willing to try it, but that's just me. Anyway, obviously the game was rushed, but the question is, was it Sega who rushed the game to be ready for their new Sonic Boom TV series? Or was it the third-party developer Sega trusted their flagship mascot to that messed up the game? I don't have the answer to that, but the fact is, given how Sega seems to want to focus solely on Sonic, they should have never trusted an outside development team to make a game for the Sonic series. It would have been one thing if a third-party developer had experience making similar style games to Sonic, but that was not the case here. The other major screw-up in the Sonic series lately is Sonic Lost World, and before you guys freak out, I'm not saying Sonic Lost World is a bad game, actually far from it. Even though I have not had the opportunity to play Sonic Lost World, I heard the Wii U version is pretty damn good, and the gameplay footage I have seen would seem to support that. But despite Sonic Lost World being a good game, it has only sold 710,000 units on the Wii U and 3DS, and why, you might ask? It's pretty damn obvious. It's because it's exclusive to the Wii U and 3DS as part of Sega's free exclusive deal with Nintendo. Sega making that deal was the absolute worst mistake they could have made. The facts are, there is little reason to pick up a Wii U anymore. With the exception of certain Nintendo franchises that are worth playing, the Wii U has virtually no third-party support anymore, which takes a lot of incentive away from gamers to buy it. I admit, I'm considering getting a Wii U, but only for 5 games: Mario Kart 8, Super Smash Bros. Wii U, Star Fox Wii U, Sonic Lost World, and even, yes, Sonic Boom. But beyond that, there might be nothing else worth getting on that console for me. I also know the PS4 and Xbox One have had not a lot of exclusives either, because they were all released on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. But my point is, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are getting more games. Let's say Sega decided to only make Sonic Lost World for the next-gen consoles. I guarantee it would have sold much better on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One than on the Wii U alone. And because of the lackluster sales, Sega might never make a follow-up to Sonic Lost World, which would be a damn shame. But the facts are, most of us are not going to buy a Wii U knowing that console's more than likely fate for just one game. We're just not. If Sega can find a way to get Sonic Lost World at least on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it will sell much better than it is now. Sega released a decent Sonic game but made the mistake of making it an exclusive on a console most gamers are not buying. The other big series that Sega seems to only be making games for is the Alien series. Alien vs Predator 2010 was a pretty good game, and overall I have nothing bad to really say about it. However, Aliens Colonial Marines is another story. Okay, I actually like Aliens Colonial Marines, but I have to acknowledge that the game has a ton of problems from game glitches to bad alien AIs, and an unbalanced story. Now, this game has a majorly troubled development history, and I can't fault Sega entirely for this, but this is another prime example of Sega trusting outside studios and not developing the game internally. Aliens Colonial Marines could have been so much better, and frankly when Sega realized there was a problem, they should have took over the project from the third-party developers and finished it themselves. Now on the other hand, Sega has managed to redeem themselves thanks to Alien Isolation. This time, Sega kept development of their new Alien game in-house and used an acquired third-party developer called Creative Assembly, who had excellent ideas for the game, and they made an outstanding game in the Alien franchise, which at the moment is my favorite Alien game in the series. Alien Isolation is not perfect, but is pretty damn close, and is a game I highly recommend. And the reason why it turned out so well is it had a development team who knew what they were doing, and Sega seemed to give them all the time they needed, but the game was also developed under Sega's roof, and the final result speaks for itself. The Alien franchise's video game series has a good future ahead of it thanks to Alien Isolation, and whatever the next Alien game is, I hope it turns out just as well as Alien Isolation has, and I hope Sega does not screw up another game in the Alien series. Now, beyond the Sonic and Alien franchises, what else is Sega doing? Well, how about not a goddamn thing? Which is the simple truth. Sega has a ton of IPs they're doing nothing with. I'm going to lay it out for you. What games should Sega be making? Well, here's some excellent ideas. Make a new Nights into Dreams game. That right there is an excellent idea, but I know some of you are going to say, well, Nights Journey into Dreams didn't sell that well on the Wii, and yes, it only sold a few 100,000 copies, but honestly, that was because it was a Wii exclusive, and because of bad marketing. A lot of the gamers who would have wanted this game had no clue it existed, which is the simple truth. Nights Journey into Dreams is decent, but it could have been a lot better. Sega needs to make a third Nights into Dreams, but make sure the controls are excellent, and just give a lot of flying levels. With Nights, no one really liked the platforming stages in Nights Journey into Dreams. The third game just needs Nights flying around very nice looking levels and beating bosses, but yes, maybe allow for some multiplayer, but other than that, that's all the next Nights into Dreams game needs to be. Panzer Dragoon is another prime example of a series a lot of us would like to see return, and yes, I know Panzer Dragoon Orta did not do very well on the Xbox, but honestly, that was because when it was released, the Xbox just hadn't become big yet. Had it been a multiplat, it would have sold better. The next Panzer Dragoon just needs to be an on-rails shooter with the same gameplay mechanics as the last games, but have a good length game and make sure the difficulty level is just right, and have great visuals and excellent controls and gameplay, and it will be a hit. House of the Dead. Okay, Sega has virtually no excuse here. This is one on-rails light gun shooter that has managed to stay solid for nearly 2 decades and continues to sell well. House of the Dead 3 and 4 are awesome, but I hate the fact that Sega only made House of the Dead 4 a downloadable only game, which was such a bad idea, and I was forced to buy the download only version just to play it, but after playing the arcade version, I knew I had to have it. However, at least Sega made House of the Dead Overkill available on disc, and it is a good game. Sega needs to make House of the Dead 5 and release it in arcades and then to consoles. There is no reason why it wouldn't sell, especially if it's as good as the last 4 House of the Deads and Overkill. Also, Sega, hint hint, make a compilation of the first 4 House of the Dead games and also throw in Overkill on disc and release it on the next gen consoles, because it will sell and it will give a lot of us a reason to buy the next gen consoles. Virtua Fighter is another prime example of a good fighting game series that Sega has done nothing with in years. The Virtua Fighter series has not really changed much game to game, but as the old saying goes, if something's not broken, don't change it, and in this case, that is true. Sega released Virtua Fighter 6 already Fighting Vipers is a really fun fighting series that was a spin-off of Virtua Fighter, and I have to admit, I like it more than Virtua Fighter, and I am waiting on the sequel for the Dreamcast to arrive, but from the reviews and the gameplay footage, it looks just as solid as the first game was. My point here is, this is a fighting series a lot of people like, and Sega, you need to make a new game in the series. Fighters Megamix was a combination of Virtua Fighter and Fighting Vipers, and I have to say, it is one awesome fighting game, offering a ton of characters, and it's just a blast to play. Sega, what are you waiting for? Make another Fighters Megamix already? Phantasy Star is one of the best RPG series ever created. A lot of gamers want a new game in the series, and frankly, I can't see a reason why Sega won't make a new game in the series. Sega, make a new Phantasy Star already, please? Echo the Dolphin is one of the best series remembered on the Genesis, and an excellent follow-up on the Dreamcast, but since then, Sega has done nothing with the series. Sega, make a new Echo the Dolphin already? A lot of gamers want a new game in the series. Rister is an interesting platformer developed by Sonic Team for the Genesis, and the game's character was intended to be another mascot for Sega, but the game came out on the Genesis 3 months before the Sega Saturn was released, and even though it seems to be a good game, it didn't get much attention, and Sega never made another game in the series. I haven't had a chance to play it, but I want to, and it has been released on Sega's Ultimate Genesis Collection, which I need to pick up, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. Rister seems to be a good game, with some serious potential, and I think Sega should make a sequel, but make a 2D sequel for the game. Just give it a decent amount of levels, with a lot of variety, and good controls, and the game should do well. Streets of Rage. Okay, this is where Sega had really dropped the ball. All 3 Streets of Rage games are awesome games, and they're still loved to this day. Despite these games being well liked and a major success, Sega has done nothing with this series in a long freaking time. Supposedly a 3D Streets of Rage was supposed to be on the Saturn, then on the Dreamcast, but neither worked out. Tons of gamers want another Streets of Rage, and all I can say is, Sega, make a new freaking Streets of Rage. If Sega is worried about the cost, then make a 2D Streets of Rage first, give it a ton of levels and gameplay like the original trilogy, and after it proves to be a success, then make a 3D Streets of Rage. But either way, make a new Streets of Rage, please. Burning Rangers is an excellent 3D platforming game made by Sonic Team, where you play as a futuristic firefighter, and you had to battle fires as well as enemies and cool bosses, and the game is super fun and a blast. The series deserves a sequel, or at least recreate the game and add some extra levels and new modes, but either way, give us a new game in the Burning Rangers series. Deep Fear was Sega's answer to Resident Evil. This game was designed to be Resident Evil's rival, and I can say it definitely is, and it's actually better than Resident Evil. The game is solid and so much fun to play, and every gamer who discovers it loves the game. Sega, release a sequel already? This series has major potential to be a successful franchise, and you're doing nothing with it? Please make a sequel. Virtual Cop is another really fun on-rails Icon series that is really fun to play, but even though it was successful, Sega abandoned it, and after Virtual Cop 3, they haven't made any more games in the series. Sega, a lot of people want a new Virtual Cop, so please make one already, and release a compilation of the first 3. That would be nice. On top of all the potential new games I mentioned Sega can make, there is also compilations Sega could be releasing. Sega has tons and tons of excellent classic games that they could be releasing in giant compilations. While Sega has done this to an extent with compilations like Sega's Ultimate Genesis Collection, which sold very well, but they haven't done any other compilations, with the exception of mostly Sonic games, and there have been high-definition re-releases of games like Nights into Dreams, but the problem is, those are all downloadable only, and that's a major problem, which is hurting sales, because a lot of us would probably buy these HD re-releases if they were available on some kind of compilation disc, but they're not, and Sega needs to get that a lot of us want to buy these compilations or HD re-releases, but not if they're download only. As you can see, Sega is sitting on a goldmine of games they can either make giant compilations of, or HD remakes, or make new games in a lot of these awesome series, and Sega frankly has zero excuses for not doing this. Sega, if you make new games in these awesome series, and make sure they're made right, and you market them right, and you release them on physical discs, they will sell. The same goes for compilations or HD re-releases. It's plainly obvious Sega can start making some awesome games and turn their bad fortunes around, but they need to get off their ass and do it. I also have some ideas for new Sonic titles, but I have decided to make a separate video about that, which I will have up ASAP. In the end, I hope Sega finally listens to us as their fan base and starts making us good games we actually want. I will talk to you guys later. This is the Entertainment Wizard, signing off.